I'm Ray.
Faith.
And this is our guest.
Maddie.
Today we're going to be talking about sexual assault. It's kind of a heavy topic, but we're just trying to make it a little more lighthearted, a little more easy to digest.
Yeah, no one wants to talk about sexual assault, but it's important that we do.
Yeah.
I think it's an important topic to talk about because it is very prominent right now in this culture, and a lot of people are too afraid to speak their heart about it.
Right, and
Yeah,
it shouldn't
exactly.
be as taboo as it is. So.
Yeah.
Well, it started out to show how stupid the tabooness is. It's not a word, whatever. Okay, every 73 seconds an American is sexually assaulted, and that is a very high number. Like,
That's just America. That's
yeah,
horrible.
and that's literally just in America.
I think that's crazy that that's only in America, and that's almost every single minute or higher than that.
Yeah.
And that's not in like the world. So I definitely think that those rates should somehow go down.
Right. So just like give a little insight into how many people that is. 1 in every 6 women and 1 in every 33 men experience attempted or completed rape. So that is a very large amount of people, and that just, you never really hear about it because, one, it's like frowned upon for men to talk about sexual assault for some reason, and in general, people just like never really report it because it's too scared.
I do think that it's more prominent for men not to talk about it because I feel like
They're like ashamed.
if they're ashamed of it that it
Yeah.
happened, that they put themselves in that situation, or not even in a situation if it couldn't have happened, because it can happen wherever you are. But I think that it's good if we talk about the men's side of it too, because I feel like women talk about it more prominently just because we can come together and talk about it as one. But I feel like men can be so divided on these topics sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. And like, sexual assault doesn't just happen to women, and I think that's something that
It's really important.
That
to
needs
talk
to be
about.
talked
it needs
about.
to be talked about because
Because
that
I-
happens to everyone.
Yeah, I
just
think
like
that's why
rape
it's so
happens to
frowned
everyone.
upon, because only women talk about it, and that's kind of some of the only things that are looked at is how it happens to women. So like if that happens to a man, they're like, wow, this really isn't right, and I can't talk about this at all.
Right.
Yeah. That's why when we talk about it, it's important to make sure that it's about everyone.
Right.
You know, like include all.
Which kind of ties into like the things that sexual assault relates to, like feminism for the first one. Feminism is not just about women, it's about
Yeah, it's
everybody
about
being
everyone.
equal. So they kind of have to like fight for like, you know, the right to talk about that.
Yeah.
It also connects to like the LGBT community because there's a very high amount of like trans people that get raped in colleges because
Yeah.
usually it's like connected to a hate crime.
Yeah, sexual assault happens in so many different forms. All are disgusting, but like it's really sad that like the minorities are especially affected.
I think people just need to be aware that they can talk about it and that they won't be judged by what's happened to them in their past,
Yeah.
and that there's always like a hope in the future for them, even though this horrific event happened to them.
Right.
Yeah, and it needs to be like safe to talk. You know,
Like you need like a safe place to talk to this about people, like a counselor or someone who's also had this happen to them, and you can just kind of like share your story and how you've overcome it or how you haven't yet. And it's just nice to talk about it with someone else who's gone through that same thing that you have.
And that really connects to like another one of the main points about sexual assault is that going through an experience like that can be really traumatic and really affect your mental health, and that can like cause people to just like have really bad depression, like really bad anxiety, and they just don't act the same around people anymore. It can even lead to like suicide kind of sometimes.
Yeah.
And that also, you know, if there is like the chance that you do like, you know, get impregnated by your abuser, then
I have the whole like abortion fight and
right.
It's just there's a lot that ties into it.
Right, yeah. There's just like a lot of things that tie into sexual assault, and like just everybody's too afraid to talk about it because it's kind of like a taboo subject. So
Yeah, it's also scary because a lot of times perpetrators walk free, which
Right.
is horrible.
I was looking at statistics on that, and 995 out of every 1,000 perpetrators walk free.
I think it's scary that that even if you do get on trial, the perpetrator can still get out with nothing but like a fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like say like, hey, don't do this again, like learn your lesson.
And I think that's why people are kind of afraid to report that kind of thing, because if you do take them to court and they do get out, then that could be potentially life-threatening to you, because they could like come after you.
Yeah, that's also,
Yeah.
I always feel like that's a big fear for people, and also why people like won't give names or looks of who the person was, or like
Right.
even if you knew who the person was. Because I feel like some people think if your sexual assault is something that happens like in an alleyway where no one knows who the person is.
Yeah.
But I feel like it should be known that it can happen anywhere and everywhere. Like,
Actually, usually your rapist is usually somebody that's like closer to you, someone you know, whether it's like a friend or a family friend.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think like social media has also kind of put a dwell on this, because sometimes when you speak about this, people say, oh, you're just an attention seeker and you're just a pick me, like look at me, this happened to me, which kind of sucks, because it also will like bring your mental health down and affect you a lot more than it was if you didn't say anything at all.
Right. It'll make you feel like, well, maybe I just am being dramatic, and maybe I really am just like saying this for attention. But in
Maybe-
reality, it's not like that.
What
Yeah,
if this
you're
is
just
just something that doesn't really matter? What if, like, there's just a bunch of what ifs, and I feel like if you live by a what if every single day, you're going to live your life in fear, and I think if you live your life in fear, you're not going to live the life that you really want, and I feel like you're really just, like, giving into yourself in this fear that you have in your head.
Yeah. Everyone's story is valid. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you feel like it wasn't as severe or something.
Yeah, no one's
Right,
story is too
so-
big or too small. Like, assault is
Yeah.
assault. Like, there's nothing you can say, like, oh, this happened, so it's not as big of a deal. But, I
Yeah.
mean, it really still is.
Yeah.
Especially like how it often happens like in schools and in workplaces and stuff. Like those are places you should feel safe. And so then I feel like people who get assaulted at school per se, they're not gonna like go tell a teacher because they feel like, oh, I should be safe here, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's not, it's just sad that,
And a lot of the times there's no evidence that it actually happened, and you're just like, you can have a vendetta against the person, and the offender can come off and say like, oh, like I did not do this at all, and they can be totally believed. And you can
Yeah.
see them every single day at school for the rest of your high school or elementary school or middle school, college like life, and you can just be like, this actually happened and no one's believing me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happens way too often, and we really need people to like stand
Yeah.
up for what's actually happening.
Yeah, and then we have the other side of the spectrum with like victim blaming and stuff,
Yeah.
which is also horrible. So,
In conclusion, to kind of wrap things up, it just kind of needs to be a topic that's more open and people can talk about more freely, like especially men. And I think we need to, there's a lot of steps and it's going to take a long time, but we kind of need to fix like the justice system and our school systems and even like some of the workplace rules, so we can like kind of prevent this, or at least punish like
yeah, make sure
people.
the victims get justice.
yeah.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's our podcast on sexual assault. Stay safe out there. You bad shotties.
Bad shawties.